Hey man, say man, it's your boy DAALIGHT man, Daylight TV, back at y'all with another one. And on this trip, we're gonna recap week 6 of America's first Frico conspiracy trial against Sean Diddy Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka P. Diddy, aka Brother Love, aka the John Gotti Baby Oil, aka the El Chapo of Astroglide, or as I call him, Baby Oil Diddy, Baby Oil Diddy. But first, hit that like and subscribe button, smash that notification bell if you're really mopping with the content. Daylight TV, let's get it. On Monday, June 16th, during the Sean Diddy Combs trial, that's Tupac's birthday, how ironic. The prosecution presented summary witnesses who outlined evidence like text messages and financial records that suggested Combs' involvement in a criminal enterprise. Ananya Sankar, I believe I said that right, a paralegal specialist for the U.S. Attorney's Office, presented charts and reviewed text messages and other data compiled by the government. She reviewed call log to provide a summary of communications. She also reviewed text messages extracted from cell phones, including communication between Combs' staff and alleged victims. Some text messages presented showed Combs' employees joking about his hiring male escorts for freak-offs and requesting drugs like 15 pills of Molly. Sankar also presented data including charts and detailing specific sets of documents. These charts focused on evidence involving individuals like Christina Corman, Diddy chief of staff, and they included text and audio messages. Delisa Penland, a special agent with the U.S. Attorney's Office, was also serving as a summary witness. She reviewed charts and data related to the Combs investigation. Penland presented records such as texts, flight manifestos, and hotel bills to demonstrate the logistical arrangements behind these events. She read messages between Combs and a man regarding a flight arrangement for a freak-off, as well as an email from Combs to his company's finance director to book the flight. So that's pretty much them trying to prove that Bad Boy Records, although it's a legitimate record company that sold millions of records, he basically used his company to facilitate these illegal actions and everything like that. And because people wanted to keep their job and whatever, you know what I mean, they just went with it. But you know, he had a crew, but now he's in the freak all by himself. You know, Penland showed records of flight and hotel reservation paid for by Diddy for an escort named Jules. That's the one that they said he and Cassie were using on a regular. I think more than the Punisher. This was presented as evidence supporting the charge of transportation to engage in prostitution. And I ain't gonna lie, it kind of proved that shit. Like, if the jury buys into all of this or whatever, and you know, they definitely prove like that, or instances that could be perceived as that. You know what I mean? The whole thing about it is the force of the coercion and all that, even though the transaction might have been illegal. You know, the whole sinister plot that like people were forced into this or whatever is the thing, right? So records were shown demonstrating charges to Diddy businesses for damages to hotel rooms, including a nearly $50,000 charge from the Intercontinental in Times Square, New York. Damn. So, well, the Intercontinental, I think that he kicked Cassie in, that's in LA. But damn, so you end up spending 100. Them intercontinental joints was like intercontinental traveling and shit, man. You spent the bag every time you went in there. You had to pay 100 to get the tape back from the Eddie Garcia nigga, and now you got to pay 50,000 to these people because you done messed they joint up. They can't behave themselves. Um, Prosecutors aim to show that this expense was part of the racketeering conspiracy case. Yeah, basically, like he's using the money to cover up that he did all the little freaky, crazy shit with the baby oil and messing up them people place. It's like, I guess vandalism or whatever. But during cross examination, home defense attorney Teeny or Taney Geragos, I don't know if it's teeny or taney or whatever and shit, if it make the long A sound or whatever. I'll figure it out. Question Penland about the completeness of the prosecution's evidence charge. Um, she pointed out inconsistencies where Ventura's name wasn't listed for certain hotel meetings, suggesting inaccuracies in the presentation. Penland responded to that the charts were based on available evidence and she couldn't include names without supporting documentation. She also clarified that her role was to verify the presented evidence, not to add to it. Additionally, the explicit video footage related to the alleged freak-offs was shown. The sensitive and explicit nature of the video led the judge to seal it from the public view. Jurors watched the footage while wearing headphones and using screens with privacy guards. The videos basically depict what prosecutors alleged to be drug-fueled sexual encounters. Before this point, the jury had only seen still images and heard audio related to these events. Prosecutors presented the videos as evidence of Combs coercing women into participating in these encounters. The defense, however, argued that the videos show consensual activity and support their argument that the encounters were voluntary. Yeah, because it's like, um, Diddy is not like a Bill Cosby, you know what I'm saying, where he's completely coherent, knows what's going on, and he's just slipping something in your drink, dropping the Mickey on you, Quaalude, whatever. And then when you pass out, you know, he's just on your body. He actually wants you to be very awake, very lucid, and aware. You know what I'm saying? Because he's finna give you directions and all of that. And how you gonna follow that if you're not in your right frame of mind? Diddy is a drug addict too. You just heard him testify about how the messages were making fun of him for ordering the drugs, the mollies, and all that shit. Now, if he was on some sick shit where the mollies was just for everybody else so that he could control them, probably wouldn't be that like crazy or whatever. I think the joke is that he be getting high. So also, that day in court, the judge had finally dismissed juror number 6. You know what I'm saying? After citing concerns about the jurors' honesty regarding where they live. So apparently the whole thing was dude from the Bronx. He got a girl, a baby mama, or whatever. She stay in Jersey, right? So he be posted up out there, I guess. We know how this type of shit goes, or whatever. It's not uncommon. You know what I mean? So now they're gonna raise the issue about where he lived and saying he lied about where he lived and all this other shit. But the whole thing is when they do a jury pool for a certain area, they target a certain area. For you to get that letter means that that is your legit address. You get what I'm saying? So the fact that they even like raised that thing, it was on them because how did they send you the letter, you know, the jury duty notice and shit. You feel me? The defense raised concerns about this dismissal, particularly affecting the racial diversity of the jury, which the judge dismissed. On Tuesday, June 17, 2025, during the Sean Diddy Cohen trial, the jury continued to be shown videos of alleged Frico. The videos were all recorded between 2012 and 2014. Delisa Penland returned to the stand as a summary witness, presenting records related to the alleged Frico and expenses allegedly paid for by Cohen for travel and damage at hotels. She also testified about phone and text records following the 2016 hotel incident with Cassie Ventura, where Cohen pleaded with her to return to the hotel by falsely claiming that he was about to be arrested. Yeah, that shit was crazy. And that was part of, like, I don't know if it was like that charge per se, but they were using that as an example of the coercion or whatever and shit, right? So that one seemed pretty short and sweet, right? Nothing really eventful outside of the jurors being shown like the freak off videos instead of just the actual still images and hearing some audio. But no day was shorter than June 18, 2025. The Diddy trial adjourned early because the juror got sick with vertigo. The judge decided to adjourn for the day to allow the juror time to recover. And the trial was pretty much scheduled to resume on Friday, June 20th, with a shortened session that I believe it was shortened so that one juror could attend the graduation ceremony. I don't know if it was their graduation or graduation for somebody else or whatever. Probably theirs. It was it was noted that the jury's absence could potentially impact the trial's overall timeline. The unexpected adjournment was particularly significant because the prosecution had planned to call Brendan Paul, a former assistant of Diddy, to testify. Paul was considered a key witness, and his testimony was anticipated to be crucial to the prosecution case. The delay means that Paul's testimony will now take place on Friday, June 20th, when court resumed after the Juneteenth holiday. Now, for those of y'all who don't remember, Brendan Paul was the alleged drug mule who they were arresting. I don't know if he was already at the house or he showed up when he seen the Fed there. If he showed up and he seen the Homeland Security and the Feds were already there, he clearly never watched Belly or whatever and shit. Because when DMX pulled up to that big ass house and seen the people all in that bitch, he turned his ass around. I should also point out that even with court being adjourned early, Diddy still got to utilize the extra time that he was permitted before and possibly after the day of testimony begins, due to visiting restrictions at the MDC that make it difficult to review text messages used in trial with evidence as evidenced by the prosecution. Like I said, court was already scheduled to be closed on Thursday, June 19th for the Juneteenth holiday. So the trial resumed on Friday, June 20th. And after the 2-day break, we finally got testimony or whatever from Brendan Paul. The former assistant testified under an immunity order which compelled his testimony after he had invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. I'm guessing so because you was running around out here picking up drugs and shit. probably flying from place to place and all this other shit. Paul had previously faced drug possession charges related to an incident with Diddy and testified about his demanding job, working long hours, and procuring drugs like ketamine and ecstasy for Combs' personal use. Now that's interesting because now it's like it's clearly saying that this wasn't somebody who was just drugging people and taking advantage of them. He himself has a drug problem. You get what I mean? So he's partaking in the drugs with everybody else. You know, in fact, the Punisher said he didn't see Diddy on any drugs or whatever, and that he and Cassie were lucid, and he was only offered some weed. You know what I mean? He denied being a drug mule or witnessing criminal activity at Diddy's King's Nights, also known as Frico. Which that's interesting because now he basically just he's the prosecution witness, but he basically decriminalized or tried to by saying that uh personal use and nothing seemed forced, like he was just in the mix. Um Paul testified about obtaining other drugs like marijuana and cocaine for Diddy, and said that he would meet up with drug dealers to acquire these substances and sometimes pick up prescriptions under Diddy's name or the alias Frank Black. Here we go with that Frank Black shit again. Paul described setting up hotel rooms for Combs' Wild King nights, which involved ensuring the room had baby oil, alcohol, toiletries, sheets, towels, and a Gucci pouch containing drugs. Paul mentioned cleaning up hotel rooms after these nights where he would find rooms in disarray and wear gloves for sanitary reasons. Uh, he once saw white powder he believed was drug residue. Paul recounted his March 2024 arrest for cocaine possession at the Miami airport, stating that the cocaine belonged to Diddy and he accidentally left it in his travel bag and all that. So he claimed that the charges were dropped after he completed a pretrial diversion program. So basically, it's a drug program. Some jurisdiction call it drug court, whatever. Uh, Paul described Diddy as a demanding boss who expected staff to basically operate like the SEAL Team 6. If you know, you know. He recounted being fired multiple times for minor mistakes. Paul testified that he didn't initially tell law enforcement that the cocaine wasn't his due to his loyalty to Diddy. When asked how he feels about Diddy now, Paul responded, "It's complicated." So, yeah, clearly, bro, I don't know like how often he was around Diddy, like if he was just picking up and dropping off and then going on his merry way, you know. Joseph Cicello, a Homeland Security Special Agent, presented a chart detailing alleged freak-off encounters involving Combs and Jane, who pretty much we know now is Daphne Joy. You know what I'm saying? 50 Cent baby mama. But the chart, based on records, documented around 45 sex parties between 2021 and 2024, emphasizing encounters corroborated by multiple records detailing locations, names, and travel records related to the investigation. Sarcello's role was to present and analyze the evidence gathered by the government, corroborating their narrative about Combs' alleged actions and the timeline of events. He mentioned a trip in December of 2021 involving Jane and an entertainer named Sly, including flight records and text messages coordinating Sly's arrival in Miami. He discussed incidents of property damage at hotels associated with Diddy's stays. For example, he mentioned a $6,000 bill for damages at the Bal Harbour Resort in Miami in December of 2021, and another one for $7,577.24 at the London Hotel in West Hollywood in January of 2023, which included $3,000 in damages. Sarcello noted that before the lawsuit filed by Cassie Ventura in November of 2023, most of the listed locations were hotels, but afterwards, there were no records of further hotel visits or parties. The Sean Diddy Combs trial ended earlier than usual, like I said, for to allow a juror to attend the graduation ceremony. The prosecution will continue in questioning Agent Sarcello on Monday, June 23rd. And basically, they expect to rest their case on that day. The defense is expected to call only a few witnesses and anticipates presenting their case within a few days, actually, and potentially finishing by the end of Tuesday, June 24th, or Wednesday, June 25th. Closing arguments are scheduled for Thursday, June 26th, if there are no unexpected delays. So, yeah, the trial's in this 6 weeks, and it could go to jury by next week. You get what I'm saying? But damn, the fact that I thought that the defense would probably take the same amount of time that the prosecution did presenting their case, as opposed to just taking a few days. You know what I'm saying? Like, but then again, the burden of proof is on the government to prove guilty. You know what I'm saying? Also, a lot of people are wondering if Diddy was gonna take the stand in his own defense, and I'm like, yeah, probably not, because that normally doesn't happen unless you're like super squeaky clean, or there's some legal loophole where your lawyer won't let them get certain questions through. Yeah, you good money. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like once it goes to jury, we're gonna see how long the jury is out. And you know, if it's gonna be any like crazy shit going on that gets reported out, you know what I mean, from that jury room. But that's this week's recap of key events from the Diddy trial, week 6. Jump in the comments, let me know what you think about all of this. And if you're still here, I appreciate y'all. Hit that like and subscribe button and smash that notification bell if you're really mobbing with the content. And as always, stay dangerous so you can be safe, especially if it's a nigga like Diddy behind. It's your boy DAALIGHT TV. I'm out.